Go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to our not Thursday night team call or Tuesday night tonight because of the holiday. I'm so excited you guys are here. I love seeing your faces. And for those of you listening to the recording and for those of you watching, get your pen and paper ready because I'm going to talk, but you're going to work, okay? And I am not like a jump up and down kind of person. I wish I was kind of for this call because I'm really fired up about some of the stuff that I'm learning and I want to share it with you. I will probably talk about a couple of people throughout, but I wanted to tell you just from the beginning, the majority of what I'm going to talk about tonight comes from what I'm learning in the Appreciation Academy with Brad Bizjack, and a lot from Bob Heilig. I listen to his podcast periodically, and I will tell you episode 107 of Your Virtual Upline, which is a Bob Heilig podcast, is pretty phenomenal, as is one where he interviewed Preston Pugmire, but I couldn't tell you what number it was. So I don't know if you can search Preston Pugmire. I looked him up on Instagram. And then my devotional 100 Days of Brave, a book called Fully Alive. My mentor, Joel Salatin, who's a homesteader extraordinaire, who I love. Could you go away, dog? And a little bit of John C. Maxwell sprinkled in. But for those of you I don't know, my name is Sarah Kroger. I have been a coach for a long time, like 4 or 5 years. But I really started digging in about a year ago when I was having my 6th baby, because that sounds like a great time to, I do love Joel Salatin. It sounds like a great time to dig into a business, you know, when you're in the hospital having a baby. But that's kind of when it happened for me. And I have been working on consistency. I've been working on honing in on who I want to serve and figuring out how I can serve them well and what it is that I'm really passionate about. But I want to start with a question for you. I want to know what runs through your head when you say to yourself, I am worthy of greatness. You can say it because you're muted. Like, really say it for a second. And what runs through your head? I'm worthy of greatness. Anybody actually? I don't see lips moving, people. Does that make you feel, what does that make you feel in the pit of your stomach? Does it make you want to puke a little bit? Is there a gap between where you are now and where you want to be? And I don't just mean like in your business. It could be in your marriage. It could be in friendships. It could be in your income, in your physical journey. It could be your Beachbody business. Is there a gap where you are between where you are now and where you want to be? And do you even know where you want to be? Do you even know what it is that you want to get to? Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever allowed yourself to imagine what it would be like when you've gotten to that successful place? Whatever your definition of success is. And it doesn't have to be monetary or just business. Whatever it is that you stop and think, yeah, that's good. That's where I want to go. Have you let yourself really stop and think about what that's going to be like? Or do you just kind of float along and sometimes show up on calls and figure whatever happens, happens? Or even catch yourself saying like, whatever happens, that must be what's meant to be. I want to tell you that I have a dream that I've been honing recently and really trying to narrow in on what it would look like. And that dream is for me and my husband to be working hard together and making enough money to be generous. And that's a pretty overarching thing, and it's got a lot of fingers, and how I'm going to do that, it changes a little bit, but because in your season, the how might change, but the why doesn't change. And where you're going in that big purpose for your life doesn't change. To the point that that's even what I've named my team. So we all have team names in our Beachbody business. And so Kelly's is Team Freedom. And so mine is the purpose, because that just resonates with me. This concept of finding my purpose and walking in my purpose and making decisions about my life through the lens of my purpose and my calling. Have you ever started to dream and then catch yourself and pull back a little bit? Because that could just never happen. You start to daydream about something and you're like, oh, no, that's too much, too good, too big, too whatever. Or who do I think I am? I could never be that or do that or go there. Or you feel guilty for not just being happy with what you have. Because I think that the devil tempts us to feel selfish when we want more out of life. But honestly, I really believe that helping people, having something that would help people and not offering it and not sharing it, friendship, knowledge, a skill, a product, a relationship, if you have something that has really touched your life and you really believe could touch someone else's life and you don't share it, that's the selfish thing. If you don't share, I mean, we don't have a problem sharing our favorite lipstick color, but when it's something that really changes your life, you don't want to share it and you get nervous. And I think that should be your first clue that it's your fear and insecurity, but it's also this outside force that's working against you because what you have that's available is too good. It's too good to keep to yourself. And so that's when all those red flags start to come up, when you get the attention of the evil one who says, gosh, this is something good and I need to stop it. But I want to tell you, your problem is not your problem. When you think about your business or your relationships or trouble with a spouse or trouble in a job or whatever, your problem is not your problem. It's how you face your problem that's your problem. Because newsflash, nothing needs to happen and change in your life right now in order for you to be happy, in order for you to feel successful. It's only about your perspective and your gratitude. And it's kind of like your fitness journey. You can't get to the point of loving the end product if you hate the vehicle that got you there. If you hate yourself and your body and your life and all of these, and you want everything about it to change, you can't love the end product if you hate the vessel that got you there. And that's kind of how this is. You can't hate only being a fill-in-the-blank coach or only having X number of challengers and then love your business later on. You can't love your business when you're a 5-star if you hated your business when you were an emerald. If you hated your power hours and you hated talking to people, it's just not the way that it works. So rather than making changes to actually be healthy, happy and successful, and healthy, we spend extra time filtering and cropping our picture. And we take it from a good angle so it minimizes our double chin. And we put the filter over it and we change our makeup and we do all of these things. But all you need in order to really make that difference is a single step in a new direction. You can't change everything in a day, but you can be going this way and then say, I think I'm going to go this way and face a whole new direction. And frankly, I've once heard, and I love this analogy, it's going to be one of many tonight, I'm sure, when it's the difference between, and pardon me for getting philosophical and spiritual for a second, but it resonates with me. When we're young, and not only when we're young, we tend to find the line or try to find the line between right and wrong and tiptoe as close as we can to it and go, are we over the line? Wait, now are we over the line? How about now? How about now? How about now? How close can we get to this line without crossing it? And I think that that's how it is when we have a problem, when we have something we don't like about ourselves, and we're facing the problem, when what we need to do is just turn around. Turn around and face the light. Turn around and face the side of good. Instead of tiptoeing closer and closer to the side of wrong, instead of getting as close as we can, we need to turn around. So you can shift that focus in an instant, even if you haven't taken a step yet. So when you have this problem, how you approach the problem makes all the difference. You need to be willing to create your goals from possibility and not out of where you are now. You need to be willing, like I said at the beginning, when you start thinking about what's possible and you pull back and you think, I don't understand how I could get there from here. I don't understand how I could possibly get to that great life starting where I am now. And you're looking at it all wrong. You have to be willing to create your goals from possibility. And then you need to be proud of yourself for the desire to take action, not just the end result. You need to be proud of yourself for the desire to take action. So you let the desire turn into a plan, and then you let the plan turn into a first step. But you've got to have a strong, clear vision that inspires you to make a consistent change and to take a step in that new direction that you're facing. You can't discount the desire, but you can't only have desire and no. So when it comes down to inviting, from a business standpoint, what is your biggest fear? And I want you to write it down. What is your biggest fear about inviting? Is it rejection? Is it your reputation? You don't want to be viewed as a scammy direct marketing person? One thing that Brad Bizjack talked about in one of his trainings, and if you've not everybody's doing Appreciation Academy. I strongly encourage it because it's incredible. But he does a podcast as well, and he puts things out on Facebook that you don't have to be part of his academy in order to see. And I love his perspective on happiness, on struggle, on he is or was a Beachbody coach, but found more of his calling in this Appreciation Academy venue. And so he walked away from his Beachbody business in order to do that. But he understands how direct sales work. But one thing that he said is that you have to change the way you respond until you get the result that you want. And so if you don't like the way that inviting is going, you need to change the way that you respond to that opportunity. Either the way that you think about what inviting is, the way that you talk to people, the way that you handle objections. You need to change the way that you respond, because you can't change the way that other people respond. Because I really do, there's something to be said for a good invite. And we've all sent out lousy invites. We all have. And there's something to be said for learning how to talk to people, for learning how to overcome objections and all of that. But really, I don't think that you can send a bad invitation to the right person at the right time. If you're coming from an honest place of wanting to share, and I don't think that you can send the right invitation to the wrong person or at the wrong time. They're going to say no because it's not about you, it's about them. I can tell you my language of inviting, but you can't use exactly what I say because you're not me. But you can absorb what I say, you can look at what I say, and then trust yourself enough to speak. Because you are what you're selling. So we are all Beachbody coaches, right? We sell Shakeology, we sell Beachbody On Demand, we sell our team and our community and this business, but you're selling you. And you have to get to the point where you understand that that's your biggest asset. That's what you're inviting somebody to be part of. And one of the things I said I was going to talk about tonight was about like honing your audience and really narrowing your focus. And I don't want you to fall into the trap that success and abundance means that you have to serve everyone. I want to have a big business and a deep team. I don't necessarily aspire to be in the top 10, but I do want to have a deep and strong team because this is something that has impacted every corner of my life. My friendships, my relationships with my family, my relationships in my house, all of it. It's impacted the way I think about everything. All this stuff I'm talking about, I would have rolled my eyes. I guarantee you I rolled my eyes. IK shows up every year how big I rolled my eyes at Kelly the first time she announced that she was going to be coach. Shows up on Facebook every year. It just happened about 2 weeks ago. Big roll of the eyes because I didn't think this way. It's all been through this business that I have changed. And now when people tell me that I'm encouraging or I'm inspirational or that I'm a great support to them, that's not who I was. This has completely changed me because I've learned to change my focus and I've learned to change the way that I look at my problems. And so when you fall into that trap that success and abundance means that you have to serve everyone, you end up serving nobody. Because I'm not going to be the best coach for everyone out there. I'm not going to relate to everybody's experience. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to turn them away and be a jerk, but it means I'm not going to pursue somebody who I can't identify with because I'm not going to be the best person to serve them. Again, it's not because I'm a jerk, but I'm not going to go to an ice cream shop to get my oil changed. Right? I'm not going to go to a pizza parlor to get a good cup of coffee. I'm going to go to somebody who can do what I need. And so whatever it is that I have to offer, I need to look for the person who needs that. Now, I'm of the mindset now, I don't believe that when you're talking to somebody, when you're forming with someone and they say like, see if there's a need, I don't think there's any if. I believe that everyone can benefit from this. I believe, especially in this country, never been to England. And have I ever been to Canada? I don't think I've ever been to Canada. So Ben went to Canada by accident once. Next time I see you, remind me to tell you that story because it's freaking hilarious, but I don't want to take time to do it now. But I'm not going to relate to everybody. And I've never been to these other countries, but I know in this country, everyone needs tweaks in their nutrition. Everyone needs to move their body. Everyone needs to understand why quality of food is important. Everyone needs to understand how this standard American diet is affecting their inflammation and their weight and their bodies in general. I don't believe that there's anybody who wouldn't benefit from some component of what we have to offer. But they might not need me as their coach. I also wrote I wasn't going to ask a lawyer about raising goats, but I just needed another comparison. So who do you serve? Who would benefit by you being their coach? Who can you really relate to? As we're talking, I want you to write down a couple of things and get specific. Who is it that you relate to? What kind of person do you connect to? I want someone who speaks to my soul. I want someone who knows me and I can trust to be there for me. I want someone who cares about me and my struggles. I don't want a one-size-fits-all. I want a Sarah-size coach, right? I want someone who is, or at least is headed where I want to go. And I need to let go of the fact that that's not everybody, and that's okay. And that doesn't mean that there aren't enough people for me to serve, to have that team and that dream that I told you at the beginning. Because we're tempted to believe that if we don't cast a wide net, then we can't hit the big numbers or get enough people to make a big business. But our message is like a drop of food coloring. If you have a jar that's just a little bit full of water and you drop food coloring in it, it's dark. The color is pure. You've got a strong sense of that color. But if you then put it in a bigger vessel and pour all of this water into it, the color becomes more faded. It thins out your message. You water down your message to reach everyone, and then no one feels specifically known and loved. And it's your fear that causes you to think too big. Your fear tells you that you're leaving someone out and that you're turning away business. But someday you think you will finally get to the point where you're never going to doubt yourself, right? So we've talked about, narrowing your focus, and we've talked about envisioning what you want to be true. Can you tell those boys to be quiet? They're like rearranging the furniture up in their bedroom. And you think that you'll get to the point that you can have enough personal development and have enough growth that you will never doubt yourself. And if you do doubt yourself, if you do still doubt when you send a message, if you do still doubt when you start to make a post, then you must have failed, and you must just need to PD a little harder and read a new book, and you must have missed something. But no successful leader will ever tell you that they no longer doubt. They just handle it differently now. And this is something that I heard in that episode 107 of Bob Heilig's podcast. He talks about pulling rank over negative thoughts. And if you're not a military family, you talk about pulling rank, but it means something a little different when you are a military family. Because pulling rank is literally the end of the conversation. It doesn't matter if you're right. It doesn't matter how much evidence you have. It doesn't matter how much you know, or if the other person is, well, I won't say not very nice. If they outrank you, they win. Period. That's it. If they choose to let you keep talking, you can keep talking. And if they're done, you're done. And so that's what it made me think of when he talked about pulling rank on my negative thoughts. I outrank them. I outrank those thoughts. They don't get to live in my head if I say so. So when I'm pulling rank over a negative thought, I need to acknowledge it and move on. I need to ask myself, is this thought going to serve me? What's the thought process that I need? What will get me back to positive progress so I can keep moving forward? Is this going to serve me? If not, I outrank it and I can shut it up. It's done. It doesn't get to live in my head anymore. It's not a failure to still have negative thoughts. Because frankly, again, there's no perfection this side of heaven. And all of us were created in the image and likeness of God for the Garden of Eden. And that means outside of the Garden of Eden, we're always going to be missing something. There will always be striving. There will always be pursuit. You can't have perfection. But you can outrank that negativity. And you can be so firm in your vision and in your resolution that it can't shake you. You can be so surrounded by people who have that positive mindset and that solution-oriented way about them that they won't let you be dragged down by that. They won't indulge that negativity. You have to get to the point where you ask yourself, do I believe I can, or do I know I will? And so think about these two people. If you are out, and I'm not a smoker, but I'm going to use this example. If you're out somewhere and someone who's a smoker offers someone else a cigarette and that person says, I'm trying to quit, versus the person who says, I don't smoke anymore. Or think about it from a health and fitness standpoint. The person who says, I'm trying to lose weight, versus the person who has enough respect for themselves to set and maintain the boundary of, I don't eat that anymore. I don't do that anymore. I don't behave that way anymore. Which person is going to be more successful? Which person is the person who knows they will, versus wondering if they can? And so I'm going to give you a little bit of exercise. I want you to, this will help you when you're envisioning like who to target, who to look for when you are forming and inviting, and just who you surround yourself by. I want you to think back about the you of 5 years ago, or even the you of 1 year ago. What did that person think about herself? Your person, you, 5 years ago. What did you think about yourself? What did you think when you looked in the mirror? What happened when you had a negative encounter with somebody? How did you handle a bad day or a bad 20 minutes? Who would that person think she could impact? What difference would that person think she could make in the world? What would she think is important? And next, I want you to think of what are some qualities of people or leaders that you admire. It could be in business or it could just be in general. And I want you to write some things down because we're going to do something with this list in a bit. What are some qualities of leaders that you admire, or of people in general that you admire? Anyone. It could be a coach from high school. It could be your friend. It could be your spouse. It could be a mentor or another coach. Because frankly, what we're creating right now is your content for the week. So when you think about who you were 5 years ago and what that person was concerned with, that's what you need to post about. That's what you need to go live about. That person, those doubts, those insecurities, those misguided concepts of reality. I think about who I was, it was more than 5 years ago when I was in my 20s, but I think about who I was. I did a lot of volunteering. I did a lot of traveling, and I knew everything. Let me just tell you. And I thought I was single-handedly going to change all of Africa in the Peace Corps. And there's some good and in that kind of excitement, but I want to stop now and think, what do I have? What perspective do I have now that I can shed some reality and shed some direction on who I was before. And so whoever it was that you were those years ago, whatever these qualities of leadership that you admire, these are the things that you need to be talking about. But what would have to change about you in order to be that good leader? Where do you think you have, again, that gap between where you are and where you want to be? What would have to change about you before you could be that good leader or that good influence? What would have to change about you in order to be a successful coach? What does even being a successful coach mean? Like, write that down, really give it some thought. What does that even mean? What counts as success for you? For me, when I think about being a successful coach, I think I'm a leader of leaders. And what does that mean? I see qualities in people and I encourage them to dig in and develop those qualities. I teach people how to self-assess their areas of strength and weakness and make their own plan for growth in low areas. Again, when I put flesh on that, it might look differently in different seasons of my life, but that's the overarching idea behind what I want to do. So if that's who I am or who I want to be, how do I need to act now? Because I can only make a monthly budget with the money that I actually have, but I can focus on what type of leader I want to be and what kind of wife I want to be and how I would conduct business when I'm a 10-star diamond coach. And I can do those things now. I can think about what would a good wife look like? How would she conduct herself? How would she look physically? What would she wear? What would she say? How would she sound? Where would she go? How would she fill her time? Who would get her time? Who would she surround herself by? How would she greet her husband? All of those things I can think about. What would be good in that situation? And I can be those things now. Probably not perfectly, definitely not perfectly, but I can be them. And I can think about, does the number one coach in the company beg people to join her? Does she chase down the unwilling and carry them and drag them along? Well, no, of course not. And the only times that we do that, I believe, are when we're paralyzed by that scarcity mindset. We're so afraid that there's not enough business for us that we'll take anybody. And again, I'm not talking about shutting your doors and turning people away. I'm not talking about like, oh, you're not a mom, I can't be your coach, sorry. Because that's who I feel like I identify with the most. No, of course not. There's people on our call tonight who aren't. And they're still part of this community because there's still a connection. But for me, when I'm talking to someone, I am talking to moms who are tired. I am talking to people who feel like there's a distance between what they thought their life would be at this age and where it is now. Because that's what I resonate with. And there could be anybody who falls into that category who resonates with that thing, even if they've never even seen a goat, right? But that's what I'm looking for. I don't have the strength to carry my own life on my back. I definitely can't carry someone else. And again, that's not practical when I have this big, deep, thriving team. I can't carry people kicking and screaming when there's 10,000 people in my downline. Doesn't mean I don't love them. Doesn't mean I'm not there for who needs some assistance, but I can't drag people along. And so I need to change that way of looking at my problem now. Not that those people are a problem, but that concept in that situation. Because guys, there's only one you. And God knew you and your potential stumbling characteristics when he loved you into being in this very time and place. He knew you would struggle. He knew how you would struggle. But the other side of the coin is that the opposite of every vice is a virtue. My greatest vice or my greatest struggle or temptation is a clue to my greatest virtue. The places that I struggle are a clue to my greatest gifts because they're the opposite of the coin. They're the opposite side of the coin, or something that just needs to be honed and sharpened and polished a little bit. So what is your greatest vice or your greatest struggle. It could be in business, it could be personal, but write it down. What's your greatest struggle, and what's the opposite virtue to that? Because that's another thing that you need to be posting about. You need to be showing your struggle. Talk about not caring about the message, but you still have to show the mess. Otherwise, people think that you're perfect, that you don't have any struggle, because here's all my solutions and they're beautiful. And I sit in my room with my little fake flowers and everything's wonderful, right? There's a reason I'm in this room, because the rest of my house looks like somebody picked it up and shook it. So I have to share the mess. I have to share it in an encouraging way. I have to share it in a hopeful way. I don't have to have it all figured out in order to share, but I have to share what I'm learning, and I have to share where I'm going so that people will hear themselves. People will identify with my struggle, because you always hear about, we're a military family, so there's a lot of military analogies and examples, but it's true in civilian life too. You hear about soldiers who go off to war together, who come back tightly bonded, or people who go through something serious or some great struggle together and come together and are super, super bonded in that. People need to hear themselves in your struggle. That will connect them to you, and it will help you relate to them. And so you have to stop and think, and you have to be willing to share that. And it's hard, and it's messy, and it's sometimes like, I wouldn't share when you're at the, right with a tiptoe on the edge of despair. That's maybe not the best time to share. But don't share it just once it's perfect and cleaned up. You have to bring people into that struggle with you. Pursuing greatness is an uphill climb. But that's why we don't do it alone. That's why we're surrounded by a team. That's why we are looking at these struggles and processing them together, and then sharing them when you have a hopeful message to show people that you don't have it all together. You don't have it all perfect, but you're going in a good direction, and you will go with them in that direction. It's really hard to cultivate virtue in a society that celebrates vice and indulgence and pursuing that quick and easy happiness over everything else. But it's just like lifting weight. That horrible move in lift 4, the swimmers, they don't get easier. I just get stronger. I still don't do it with super heavy weights, but they were easier by the end of the program. I was stronger. It's just like anything else. I believe in 100 days, my bolts will look as good as Jericho's. But I have to tell you honestly, don't share your deepest goals and desires with somebody who makes a face when you say them. And I almost pulled that out of my notes, that bit about looking like Jericho, because I wrote it down, and you know what I did? I went, yeah, probably not, Sarah. No, probably not. And I almost took it out of my notes. And then I was like, screw that. Right? Because none of the people I'm looking at are going to make that face, hopefully. But you don't share those dreams, those visions, that pursuit of greatness. If you share it with somebody, even if it's somebody in your own house, and they kind of go, I don't think so. That's not your person. Maybe they'll become your person. Maybe they'll rally when they start to see this new shift in you that really is going to last. But that's why we don't do this alone. Because I don't even need another person to make that face at me. I made that face at myself. And I literally highlighted it and went to hit delete. And then I was like, no, wait, I don't do that anymore. I pull rank on those thoughts. That's really what I thought. When I was typing up my notes and I was talking about the swimmers, and then I was like, oh, and the bolts. And I typed it out. And then I doubted myself. And then I pulled rank. And it stayed in. And I have a little bit of a lump in my throat when I talk about it. But it stayed in because it's really what I thought. But I want to give you some practical steps of how we get there. We can see where we want to go and who we want to be, but how do we get there? Right? You got to dream in pieces. And that came straight out of my 100 Days to Brave devotional. I know a lot of people are reading it right now. You've got to dream in pieces. In order to get to each of the pieces of my dream, I have to be brave enough to work where I am. Even if I can dream bigger and wish for a different solution and wish for my life to look differently than it does now, right now, all I can do is write, speak to my team, do right where I am now. And I need to be brave in the spot where God has placed me now. Even if I dug my own hole to get here, this is where I am, and this is where I need to work on the piece that's in front of me. So what do I do today? You do what's right in front of you. What's one piece of your calling that you can see right now? Write it down. What's one piece of your calling that you can see, that you can put your fingers on right now? For me, leading my team, leading my group, writing my blog posts, writing my podcast episodes, speaking in live videos, following my nutrition program, following my workouts, and resting, which I'm not good at. I want you to think about, especially if you feel frustrated where you are. Feel frustrated where you are in your journey, in your business, in your marriage, in your finances. If you feel frustration and you feel like you've got a big gap between where you are and where you want to be, I want you to look at, why is right here the perfect place for you to be? Write it down. What is perfect about your placement right now? For me, it keeps me hungry for something better. It keeps me in pursuit of where I want to be. It keeps me going and fighting even when I don't feel like it. You have to take that step and work on that piece. You have to take that step out in courage. And you aren't headed out to find courage. The seeds of that are in you. Your actions water and germinate those seeds so they can grow. It's kind of like motivation. And I've been telling people recently that motivation is kind of like driving a car. And people think, how many times have you had someone say, like, I know I need to work out. I know I need to get healthy. I know I need to lose weight. I got to lose, 30 pounds, but I just can't find the motivation. Maybe when I find the motivation, I'll message you and we'll do this. And I've been saying to people, like, guys, that's not how this works. You don't find the motivation and then act. You act, and that creates motivation and momentum. It's like moving your car. It's like looking out in my driveway and going, I need that car to move. It should move. I got to get somewhere. And if you get in your car and you just sit there and think really hard about where you need to go, nothing's going to happen. You have to put the key in the ignition and turn it and start driving before it will go anywhere. You have to do something before the car will move. There's more than one way to move a car. You could try pushing it, but you have, a keyless start, right? Thanks, Beth. But you still have to do something. Push a button. You have to push a button. Frankly, you have to push lots of things when you have a keyless start. But you guys miss out when you're not on live. You don't get to see all of the wonderful chat that happens on the sideline. But you have to do something. It's the same in your journey. It's the same with steps of courage. You have to decide what to do and take that first step. You have to shift in a new direction and then go in that direction. You have to turn away from the darkness, that line between good and evil. You have to turn away from it and start walking towards the good. And you're not measuring success by how far in this new direction you're going. Remember, you're being proud of yourself for shifting your focus. You're being proud of yourself for having the desire to change. You're being proud of yourself for taking each step, and you're not waiting for motivation and courage to strike you. You have decided, and you're doing that because you're a person of character. Remember, you've identified your virtue. You're a person of virtue. You're a person of commitment. You're a person who means what they say. And now I'm going this way. Now I'm committed to my journey. Now I'm committed to my business. That doesn't mean you won't ever struggle.